stand up straight with your shoulders back, and it's really a description of the ancient nature of hierarchies, their almost universal existence among living creatures, and the fact that you have extraordinarily ancient and profound neurological systems that really govern your psyche, that process hierarchical information. It's such an important psychological fact to know. I don't know if there's another psychological, biological fact that's more crucial than that. It's the serotonin system is the system that tracks hierarchical information, and it's so crucial that it actually sets up your brain in utero. So it's the master control system of the brain. If you thought about the brain as a symphony, which is actually a pretty good way of thinking about it from a metaphorical perspective, the serotonin system would definitely be the conductor. So there's rule one, and then there's do what is meaningful, not what is expedient. Meaning is an instinct. Meaning is the instinct that guides you in life across the totality of life, right? What's expedient, that's what you might want to do right now in an impulsive sense, right? Because you're driven forward by anger or anxiety or frustration or disappointment or despair, some sort of one-eyed motivational monster that's got you in its grip that really isn't considering everything at once, right? Like considering your life tomorrow or your life next week or your family's life or maybe even your well-being half an hour from now, because you lash out in anger, and it's people do that. It's understandable. Sometimes it's even necessary, but it's not wise generally. Tell the truth, or at least don't lie. And originally that rule was just tell the truth, but then I thought about it, which you should do if the rule is tell the truth, and I thought, no, you better be careful about putting forward a rule like that, because to tell the truth implies that you know the truth. And you don't know the truth because you're too ignorant to know the truth. Like, you don't know the truth about anything fully, right? If you push your knowledge out far enough, if I ask you why about something you're doing enough times, it's usually only 3 or 4 times, by the way, you're out of answers, you don't know. There's just too many things to know, and they're detailed and difficult. And so you get by with pretty shallow understanding of most things. And so you can't really tell the truth, but I think you can not lie, and that's not even the same as not being wrong, because of course you're also going to be wrong, and you're going to have stupid theories too, and they're not even necessarily lies. A lie is when you know that what you're saying is not true and you say it anyways. That's a lie, and it's a lie that you've decided yourself on the basis of your own knowledge. That's a lie. You've decided that. That's your own moral judgment. So I rewrote the rule to suggest that it's not a good idea to say things that you know not to be true. And I would say, by the way, as a practical issue, it's also a worse idea to write things that you don't think are true, because your mind is organized at the highest level of abstraction in language, and it's important that your mind is organized, because if you're not organized, then you're disorganized, and then things don't go well for you in the world, just like they don't go well for anything that's disorganized. And so you have to be very careful with what you say and what you write, writing especially, because it's focused speaking, it's focused speech, right? It takes more intense thinking. So in some sense, writing is even deeper than speaking. But you don't want to speak things that you believe to be untrue, and you certainly don't want to write them, because that changes you, and it changes you in the direction of the deception that you're undertaking while you do the speaking or the writing. And you might think, I can write whatever I want and I can just leave it be, but that's not true. And the reason for that, in part, is because your knowledge is shallow. And so if you take rather shallow knowledge and then you write something detailed that's false, you end up convincing yourself in all sorts of ways that you don't even notice that what you wrote that was a lie was true. And then you're stuck with that. And it's not stuck with it psychologically exactly, although it's also that. It's stuck with it neurologically, because when you learn things and you make new connections, you change the structure of your brain, and then that's that. I mean, you know, it's plastic to some degree, but you're messing around with your psychophysiology, and that's a bad idea if you want to get through the world, if you want to get from point A to point B, if you want to get to wherever you're going. It'd be good to have a map. And it'd probably be good to have a map that isn't full of holes and errors, because otherwise you're not going to get to where you're going. You might not even know where you are to begin with. And that seems like a bad plan if you're going to undertake a journey, and you are going to undertake a journey because your life is a journey. So pathologize your speech, then you pathologize the systems that guide you, and then that relates back to Rule 7, which is, well, you have an instinct for meaning, let's say, and it can guide you, and you need it. And then if you pathologize it by introducing material that you know to be untrue, then you distort and warp and pathologize the very feeling that you need to place yourself firmly in the world. And then you can't rely on yourself. And this is a very bad idea, because you need to rely on yourself, especially in situations of crisis, you know, when you have difficult decisions to make. And it's like, well, it's not obvious whether I should go right or whether I should go left, right? Because there's a lot riding on both decisions, and so you're sweating it out. Or maybe you have 3 or 4 decisions to make at the same time. It's like you can talk to your friends and all that, but you're the guy in the final analysis, man. It comes down to you. And if you can't trust yourself because you've filled yourself up with nonsense, then you'll make the wrong decision. And then, hey, maybe you'll pay for it for the rest of your life. And maybe you'll deserve to as well. And so a meaningless life isn't meaningless. It's suffering and malevolence. And then Rule 10, well, that's be precise in your speech. And so I'm going to weave those together and see what we can come up with as something like a general theory of meaning. A little bit about how you perceive things, because it's very important to know how you perceive things. And you don't perceive very much, by the way, because, well, there's a lot of the world, way more than you can possibly imagine, and there's not that much of you. And so a lot of information is coming in through a very narrow channel, and it isn't easy, given the fact that all that information exists. It isn't easy to figure out how to narrow that channel so that the information you get is the information that you need. It's information you need that also gives you a grip on the world, right? It has to be practically useful, true and practically useful, something like that. It's very, 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 very difficult problem to solve.